Okay, this is a quick video. I haven't really made my mind up what to call this video, whether it's troubleshooting or whatever, but a few common things that happens when people start using a barrel fed machine is, first of all, they're sucking from a barrel like this, for example. You just need to bear in mind that the filter, there's two filters on all our barrel feed machines. One here on the end of the foot filter that goes into the tank, and there's another one which is located here in this what's called a Y strainer or Y filter, and there's a little filter here. Now if I look at that filter there, you'll see a mesh with tiny little holes. Now a lot of people think when they see the filters, you don't need to worry about the water, the cleanliness of the water, but in actual fact these filters will only stop sand sized particles. They'll not stop tiny like cement sized particles, silt, that type of stuff. Now what can happen is if dirt gets in past these filters, the most common thing to happen is when you let go of the trigger that the unloader valve doesn't unload, and it actually causes a lot of back pressure, and it's quite dangerous because something can blow because the pressure builds up. So show you here what usually happens in an unloader valve when you let go of the trigger in an unloader valve. This little bullet here on this spring, okay, it needs to move freely, and what happens is when you let go of the trigger, it shuts off. By this shoots back, closes this hole, causing the main stem here, the piston, to go into bypass, and then the water comes back here on the bypass. So what usually happens is little dirt and silt gets in around that, and that jams, and when you let go of the trigger then this doesn't move and causes a lot of back pressure. So that's the thing you need to check there if you're having problems with what you think the unloader valve isn't unloading properly. Obviously you need to usually keep a container covered while power washing, because you get a lot of dirt and silt getting into the container if it's open from your actual power washing activity. So let's start this machine up and run through a few different troubleshooting things. So say we're starting off the machine here, right? So we're hooking on our suction hose there and our return hose, okay, and we'll start the machine up. Turn the fuel on. So say for example the water wasn't coming through, it wasn't being sucked up. In this case it's working perfectly well, but what can happen sometimes if the machine has been sitting for a while and hasn't been used, I'll show you this pump here. Inside the head of the pump here there's these valves. These valves open and close. Sometimes when they've been sitting for a long time and haven't been used, the seat kind of gets a bit sticky, and as I say, those need to be able to open when the piston moves up and down. So what you might have to do in a case where the machine isn't sucking up the water is you get the suction hose, take off the foot filter, okay, get say a 1/2 inch hose off a garden pipe like that, stick it up the suction hose like that, and force feed the pump like this. Try not to get wet, okay, and you'll hear it then release. Okay, so that's the first troubleshooting thing that you might encounter in the life of a machine, especially if it's been laid up over winter and hasn't been used. Okay, so let's talk about the unloader valve here and the adjustment of the unloader valve. So when you're using the machine, just need the high pressure hose for this. So this is basically how you know when the unloader valve is at full pressure. Okay, so let's start the machine up. Okay, so that was demonstrating when I was screwing the unloader valve, when the water stopped coming out of this bypass, that's when you're at full pressure. There's no point screwing the unloader valve any more past that point, or the machine will start working against itself. So that's another good test if you think you have a faulty unloader valve, because if your unloader valve is full pressure and you've still got water coming out of this bypass when you're at full pressure, and you can't get any more pressure, that tells you that there's something going on with the unloader valve. However, if you've got a pressure problem and you're not getting pressure from the machine and there's no water coming out of the unloader valve, then you need to look elsewhere. And certainly one of the things that can happen is, if you look at these little check valves here, you could get like a little metal filing or something that just lodges in between the seat and the base there, and what happens is then, because it's restricting that closing, when the piston's drawing the water, it's like a syringe. If that isn't closing, it's not going to draw the water. You're not going to get a full chamber of water, so there isn't enough water going into the machine. So that's certainly one area there you can check. Another thing to check is obviously that the water is getting to the machine. Another thing can happen is you can have an air leak along here in the suction hose. You could have a hole in the suction hose, or one of these threaded joints here might be leaking, and the best way to test that is, again, to stick the suction hose, stick the hose up the thing and pressurize the whole system with the lance on, and you'll see leaks. You'll see if this is drawing air, you'll see water leaking from this point. So rather than have a big long video and me blethering constantly in the whole long video, we'll just leave this video for now. So that's a little snapshot into some of the things that can impede performance with these pressure washer pumps. Okay, thanks, bye.